Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. Hope everybody is well. Hope you had a fantastic weekend, and I hope your Monday is going well so far too. How is everybody? What are you up to tonight? What is your drink of choice this evening? Are you got some hobby on the go tonight? Are you still at work? Is it early in the morning for you Australians and New Zealanders? Or are you just kind of just kicking back and just relaxing this evening? Let's have a look at who we've got in the chat and say hello to a few fine folks. Tolmore in nice and early, good evening to you. Hello Ian as well, Lord Maiden there, nice to see you. Busey's in as well, saying evening all, who's that bloke on the right? Pretty sure you know who that is, mate. Kodos, good evening to you as well, fella. Ortega, hello in the rerun, buddy. Marcus, the Super Pumpkin Man, good afternoon to you as well. Blizzards, hello to you. Hello, Ice Moon as well. Robert Zunk, nice to see you in nice and early. Peter Kumin, good evening. Zingbo, hello. Christian Reeves, the legend that is Mr. Reeves. Good evening to you too. Blair Smith, hello. Al Cluley says, yep, how is it? How bist all? Is that how is all? Nice to see you, mate. Luke Roberts, good evening to you. Palmsy, nice to see you as well. We've got Andrew Cook in, says greetings from tomorrow. Happy Tuesday, mate. How you doing? Michael Cowan is in. James Zorm, greetings to you as well. Yoakum's in. Austin Thornhill says good afternoon from LA. Hope all are well. Nice to see you, my friend. Greg Cherry, howdy to you. VJ, good morning as well. Peter Stockdale, good evening. Let's walk down there. Al's on the gin and tonic. Very nice, mate. VJ's on the green tea. I've just finished a cup of coffee, and unfortunately, I've now got nothing left in my cup, so I'm going to have to go the whole stream without a drink now, which is going to be interesting. J-Bot, good evening to you. Ian says, nice to see you. Hello, mate. How you doing? Glenn Griffin says, evening, BlackJackers. I heard this is where the cool kids are. Well, as you can kind of, is it that side? That side you see behind me? I'm kind of poking a bit of fun here, saying, oh, we're the cool kids. If anybody's familiar with the Mitchell and Webb sketch about the Nazis in World War II, about like, are we the baddies? I'm kind of poking fun like that a little bit. Jamie Newton, good evening. Yoakum says he's painting his minis for the BlackJack Painting Challenge. I did a little bit more of mine over the weekend as well. Coming along quite nicely. We'll touch on them as well later. Ed's in as well, good evening. Michael says his drink tonight is a strong Scottish stuff, iron brew. And he'll be painting when he gets set up. A nice one. Jez, good evening to you, mate. He said there's that famous bloke and the lad of Witcher in the background. Camo, good morning. He says, no kicking back, he's getting ready for work. Enjoy your day, buddy. Vijay says, we can always take a 5-minute break for you to make a cup of... Nah, unfortunately, mate, I don't think I've got any milk out here, so I'd have to go back inside the house. I think I've got a bottle of water in the fridge next door if I need it. Tom Martin, no hobby, just chilling, having a cuppa, watching BlackJack. Tony Howell, good evening, mate. How you doing? And Ian says he sent his reminder off to me. Yeah, I did see it, mate, as well. Thank you very much. So, tonight's chat. A couple of things we're going to talk about tonight. One is, as you can see there, if I can remember my left from my right, because I can never tell which way around it is, we've got a certain Mr. Henry Cavill there on the screen. And yeah, I'm kind of poking fun a little bit at this kind of like, are we suddenly the cool kids now kind of thing. However, what I want to talk about is, as I'm sure everybody's aware, Henry Cavill paints Warhammer miniatures. He's into his Custodes army, and he made a trip to Warhammer World. I think it was over the weekend maybe, or it might have been Friday last week or something. And obviously there's pictures all over the internet all about it. And what I want to suggest, what I want to talk about, not specifically Henry Cavill, but what I want to talk about is, can the effect of kind of celebs sort of not just kind of saying that they paint miniatures or whatever. Like, I mean, there's been a few famous people, and we'll touch on that, who've kind of been in and around the hobby. But can they actively take in a very kind of public participation in the hobby? Can that be a good thing, and can it grow the hobby beyond its kind of current relative niche kind of constraints at the moment? So we'll be talking about that. And as you can also see this side, I'll also be giving away, or you certainly will be able to enter this evening to win one of the new Kings of War starter sets, the ones with the Halflings and the Rift Forged Orcs. So I'll tell you how you can enter that tonight. It's going to be dead simple, don't worry about it. There's going to be no kind of like, you don't have to paint anything, you don't have to jump through any hoops. It's going to be dead simple, but I'll show you how you can enter that. I'll tell you when the closing date is and how we're going to kind of draw it and stuff. But very kindly, Mantic Games offered me a set to give away to one lucky community member. So we will be doing that this evening, explaining how to do that. And then in a few weeks' time, because it's not available yet, there's no point drawing a winner tonight when it's not out for a few weeks. In a few weeks' time, we'll pick a winner and we'll sort all that out. Where are we up to here? Palmsy said he's playing Pokemon. Just like the grown-up you are, mate. Rob says he's off on Mondays and then 1 p.m. and watching one of his favourite live streams. Thank you very much, mate. Painting up some more Batman minis. I saw you'd made a good start on them, mate. Marcus says I might start painting after I finish my sandwich. And Wayne says, evening, everyone. Good evening, Wayne. Ed says Friday. Some guys from my local Warhammer community were there by chance and met him. That's when it was Friday, mate. Jess says Cavill's a nerd. Quick grab his dinner money and chuck his bike in the nails. Tony saying Andy Serkis likes his 40k gubbins too. I'm not sure how much, if you've watched the Andy Serkis videos, I'm not sure how much he likes his 40k stuff, but we'll get on to that. Marcus says, be kind and don't forget to drop a like. That would be very, very kind. And Jess says, oh, one of them giveaways. I tell you what, folks, I am just going to stand up a second. I'm going to move my chair because I tell you what, my back is still playing up a little bit. So we're just going to move the chair one side. Oh, how freeing. We'll just stand up. I feel like I'm perched on the edge of the stool a little bit. So we're going to stand tonight for a change. We might have to move the camera a little bit, but I'm sure we'll be all right anyway. So yeah, so that's what we're going to be chatting about tonight. Of course, on top of that, I'll be giving you a little bit of the latest news stuff, the stuff that's kind of like that's popped up in the last few days, and we'll just be chatting general hobby stuff. We'll be chatting community stuff. We'll be talking about the Fantasy February painting challenge. We'll be maybe talking about or teasing maybe what might be coming up in March. Yeah, so yeah, plenty to talk about tonight. Luke says, finishing some Blood Ravens before he gets on with his BlackJack Legacy Challenge stuff. Nice one, mate. And Ed says, I'd love to be painting tonight, but my wife needs a table for making costumes, so I'm writing an adventure for one ring. Well, there you go, mate. Multitasking indeed. Multitasking. Marco says, hi, folks. Is the picture on the background from Andy's 30s? From my early 40s, mate. I haven't changed that much, to be fair. It's only since I decided to shave my hair and decided not to have a square jaw. John Estel, good evening to you as well, mate. He says, have we started talking about my slightly less attractive lookalike yet? Those are some sweet orcs in that starter set. We haven't, mate. We haven't started talking about them yet. But I'll tell you what we will do. We might as well, how we're doing for numbers. We're doing all right. I'll tell you what we'll do is we'll switch across to some of the news items for this evening. And we might as well kick off with, if he gets the right buttons right. Hey, oh. There you go. I might have to crouch down for this one just because I'm normally a bit lower. So yes, tonight, Games Workshop announced a little bit more information about the latest Kill Team release. And this one has got some new Chaos Space Marines in it. I'll tell you what I'm going to do actually, folks. Rather than me crouching down, because that is that's not good for my back. I'm going to move this camera down. This is where you get to see behind the curtain where the magic happens. How I crop all the bits out. There we go. Now I don't have to break my back now. I'm a pro. What can I say? Yes. So this new set has got some nice Chaos Space Marines in, and it also, if I remember right, has. We'll get to it. I can't remember now. But it's called Nakmund, which is a strange name at the best of times. It says, we're not quite recovered from seeing the amazing new Corsair Void Squad that we saw 2 weeks ago, but who will they be facing off against in Kill Team Nakmund? It will only be the Heretic Astartes. And I believe, I've not looked at these in depth, but I believe that these are new models as well. There's a nice little kind of video here, which I'll just play in the background there while we're chatting. But I must admit, when I saw the little video here tonight, let me skip ahead. We don't need to know all this stuff here. Here they go. When I saw this video tonight, I must admit I quite like these models. I've got no idea if these are new ones or not. They seem to be a bit more detailed, which I'm not familiar with. One of my sons used to collect Chaos Space Marines a long time ago, and I don't remember seeing a lot of these. So I'm assuming that they're probably newer models. But yeah, they look pretty nice, to be fair. I must admit it's not a bad box set. So if you're into Kill Team, this might be something that you fancy. So, as we scroll down here, it says, we've seen from the Eldritch Omens box set, there's no love lost between Aldari and Chaos. Space Marines, the Legionnaires in Kill Team Nakmund come with an additional sprue over their heretical brethren, packed with cool details and weapons to give them even more ways to kill Aldari or Aldari. And much like the Tower Pathfinders from Kill Team Chalnoth set, This box provides tons of new customization options for existing kit. Legionary Kill Team commanders are going to be spoiled for choice. And here you can see that, I'm sure we've got that nice and, well, I was going to say centered, but up and down. Here we can see what choices we've got here. So, no idea what the different units are. Kill Team's not necessarily my thing. 40k is not my thing. But I must admit, I am a fan of the models, and these are very nice. Kind of thing I'd quite like to paint. I'm not going to pick up the box set for it just to paint these, but I must admit, if I had a few to paint, I think I'd quite enjoy them. So yeah, some nice models. I must admit, I think this one's potentially my favourite from the set, if I'm honest. I do quite like that kind of the grimace on the face there, the book chained up on the back as well. They're quite nice. And it says you'll be able to dominate a battlefield with a range of operatives, like to gun down your enemies from distance. The heavy gunner's Reaper chain cannon will cut a swathe through your foes. Prefer to get up close and personal? The Shrive Talon is bound to leave a mark with his flensing blades. Why do they have to have these terms? Need some psychic support? That's where the Balefire Acolyte comes in. So yes, these are very, very nice. So, and then it basically then also shows us what's inside the box. Now the terrain, I don't believe there's anything new in the terrain. I'm sure we've seen this stuff before, kind of like the crane stuff. These, I forget what they're called, but these generator type stuff. Certainly these tanks and bits and pieces, I've got loads of these scattered about at home, the bits of pipes and things. So it's not new terrain as such, but it's a nice set. If you haven't got this stuff, it's definitely worth picking up. And you can see the bits and pieces here as well. It's basically just quite a lot of Sector Mechanica stuff. But yeah, not bad. If you're starting out, you need some terrain, some sci-fi terrain. I'll be honest, some of these bits work really well for kind of, like even sort of Wild West Exodus. It's got that kind of like sci-fi western feel with bits of like pipes and kind of sort of weird sort of plasma generators type things. Apart from all the skulls on it, obviously. But yeah, they still work quite well. And it says that there's also rules that let you use hatches to explore the underground and smog stacks that belch toxic smoke into the atmosphere. And it'll be available to pre-order soon. I'm assuming if they've announced it, it'll probably be available to pre-order this weekend coming. So yeah, so that, he says, is the new Kill Team. Let's have a look in the chat on that, or the new Kill Team box. I quite like, do I like it? I like the fact that they keep releasing more and more stuff for Kill Team. It shows, I'm glad they're supporting it, which is a good thing. It keeps feeling like a new starter box every time, and I think they just need to be a little bit clear with people to make sure people don't feel like it's a new edition type thing every time. If you like, I've no idea. I can't remember now. Let me have a quick look. Did that have the main rules in there as well? I'm not sure if it did. Does it say here? Yes, it does. 2 full teams. You get a rule book featuring details for the kill teams that are included in the box as well. So yeah, so it does have a rule book in as well, should you wish to learn to play. Let's have a look and see what folks are having a chat about here. Luke says this is definitely a purchase I'll be making. The Corsairs are lovely. Yeah, they are quite nice, mate, to be fair. Ed says not new Marines, just an upgrade sprue apparently. That will explain it to me. Yeah, I'm not that up on the Chaos Marines, but certainly they steamed some new bits that I hadn't seen before. That'll be why then. B. Davies, good evening, mate. He says, glad to be back to another stream. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm doing very well. Thanks, mate. Hope you are too. Jess says, ever noticed that Marines always look grumpy, but those Chaos Marines are full of smiles, having a lovely time? I tell you what, mate, you know what they say, don't you, about history is written by the victors and all that kind of stuff. Maybe the Chaos Marines might have the right idea. They all seem much happier. Glenn says, I thought they looked pretty much the same as the current ones, so just being an upgrade screw made sense. Yeah, like I say, I'm not up to speed on them, mate. Cat Smith, good evening. So just built Dormammu. Is it me or is the Grinch dressed for Halloween? Still love though. A little bit, I know what you mean. Marcus says the Kill Team box does look great and the new sculpt. Yeah, there's some nice stuff, mate. Greg says he's been painting Blood and Plunder, waiting to dive in when the Kickstarter delivers. Very nice, mate. Kodos says, while it was already expected, I'm still disappointed that GW did not take the chance for new Chaos Kill Team and just made an upgrade sprue. Never miss the opportunity to miss an opportunity. I guess a lot of it must be dependent upon, and I guess this is a bit of a catch-22 thing, that they will invest into new sort of, like new sprues, if you like, for Chaos Marines if the Chaos Marine range is kind of popular enough, but the problem is it's potentially not that popular because they haven't updated it in such a long time that people don't buy it. And I think they fall into that trap a little bit, that you almost need to take the kill team would have been a really good opportunity to release a few new sculpts and kind of test the water. And if people jump all over it, then you can kind of follow up with the next army. So I must admit, I'm surprised. I mean, like I say, I'm not that familiar with the range. I assume that they were new ones. But yeah, if they're not, if it's just an upgrade sprue, kind of like it does take the shine off a little bit, I guess. But yeah, there's some nice ones I like. James Bray, good evening, mate. He says, is that Henry Cavill? Oh, no, wait, check the hair. It's only Andy. Of course, mate, the much more attractive and much happier version. Look, he doesn't look a happy guy, does he? I saw him wandering around Warhammer World and he's jumping with his sleeves pushed up, carrying his cup of coffee. He looked like he would have had a much better time just going for a pint. Let's have a look. Beauty says, any price... Oh, no. Tony said, not a fan of any 40k minis beyond the death course, so I'm keeping quiet on this one. Yeah, different horses for different courses, mate. James saying he loves his GW scenery. I got quite a bit of that stuff off when I used to play Kill Team before, to be fair. Beauty says, any price on that new Kill Team box? Do you know what, mate? Let me have a little look in my box of tricks here, because sometimes if it's up for pre-order, if it was... it wasn't up for pre-order this weekend. I assume it'll be the same price as the current Kill Team boxes. So let's have a little look and see what they're priced at. Off the top of my head, are they about 100, 125? I could be wrong with that. Yes, Ed's saying expect to be 125. So I assume it'll be the same price as the existing ones, mate. But let me just do a double check here, see if there's anything. See the full range of Kill Team. Yeah, let's just say 125 until we know more. Peter saying, yeah, let's just jump a little bit. Let me click by. VG is there, sorry. No main rules. It's in no main rule. It does say rules. Unless the way it was worded, it made it. You get a rule book featuring details of kill teams. So it makes it sound like the rules are there as opposed to because it says a rule book, unless it's just the stats for the ones that's in there, which is a shame if that's the case because it does make it sound that way. VG saying there's so many great third-party vanilla Chaos Space Marine sculpts out there these days. I'd prefer to see GW finally redo the Khorne Berserkers. Like I say, I don't really keep up with speed on them. I've got no need for them, really. This has been an auto buy for him. Zero interest in the current ones. Tizzy Braindrain, good evening, matey. Start his man cave, good evening to you as well. Perkins Dearborn, he says, thanks for the stream. You are very welcome, Perkins. Ed says, the book that is in it is just specific rules for the two teams and the terrain and some missions. I guess it makes sense, mate, but the way it's worded isn't very good. I can imagine anybody picking that up from that description would potentially think that it had the rules in it. Bearing in mind it says that there's a rule book. Peter saying Kill Team box looks good, would get it, but depends on the funds. Martin saying, I guess Chaos Marine really love their jobs, unlike Loyalist Marines. Man, they're just having fun at work, doing what they love. You can see you're damn right, you're more sexy. Well, there you go. Mini War Mode says, hey all, he says, just purchased the Halfling Mega Set. Good luck on the Kings of War set. Also purchased the Undead Mega Set too. Yes, I have a problem. I've got the Halfling Mega Set, mate, and I've also got some Riftforged Orcs as well, and I think I'll still pick this up. You can never have too many. Jess said his back was massive. Christian says, help support the channel from as little as $2 a month. Thank you very much, mate. If anybody would like to join the Patreon, there's never been a better time. $2 a month gets you into the chat, the private Patreon chat, and you get to hang out with us lovely folks during the week. People talking about different prices. Sunderland, good evening, mate. Thank you for your email as well this week. I've not had a chance to reply to you. Glenn saying, don't forget GW price rise from March the 7th. There is that as well, mate. It might creep up a little bit. And Mini Warmut says you can still get the Kill Team starter set for $84. You get the books in that. It must be on sale over there, mate, is it? So yeah, so that is Yeah, it's advertising copy can be misleading, shocker. Yeah, unfortunately, I know Warhammer community don't always get the full information from the kind of like the release team or the product team, if you like, which is a bit of a shame. However, they do quite often word them in a way that can be misinterpreted a little bit. And I guess in that terms, you have to wait until it's up for pre-order and actually read the small print there and then. Because if you read some of the kind of the advertising or the promo copy, it can sometimes lead you down the wrong route a little bit. Let's have a look at, we've got any more news as well. So, one thing we talked about briefly last week was this one, Umbrella Academy, the board game, which I can actually see on the floor over there, but let's not say anything about that. And Mantic gave a bit more information about that today, which is basically giving you a bit more in-depth. So this is what I didn't want to explain any of this last week because obviously I had a little bit of prior knowledge. Mantic hadn't explained it yet, but there is a bit more information here as well. It's showing you some of the painted minis. Obviously they don't come painted, you have to paint them yourself, but there's some nice high-res images there of them as well, painted by Studio Heraldez. And there is also some nice sort of bigger, more detailed shots of the board and the cards as well, so you can kind of, you get a little bit more information there. I'll not read through all of this because we talked about quite a bit of it last week, but if you are interested, head over to the Mantic blog and they've got all of the information on there, and it says it's coming to Kickstarter soon, and you can sign up basically to get notified when it goes live, and you can find out a little bit more about it. And I'm assuming from what they're saying here is that it says these are just the basics, and throughout this week we'll be looking at the gameplay in more detail. Tune in next time for an explanation of those all-important hazards. So if you are interested, want to know a little bit more, or just want to kind of have a look at the miniatures there, the Mantic blog is the place to be. So, let me get back to here. Mini Warm Watchers, thanks for the great interview with Ronnie too. Awesome. Thank you very much, mate. Yeah, I did enjoy having a chat with Ronnie. We did plan to get together at the back end of last year. He contacted me about coming up to the studio and coming and meeting up and having a chat and doing an interview. And unfortunately, something happened back end of last year, and he had to cancel it and rearrange it for this year. And so so we came up. Wasn't last week? It was the week before, I think. Yeah, I'm trying to get my bearings right. Yeah, he came up the week before last. We had a couple of days together. And we had an interview there as well. We did the chat. It was nice speaking to him. It was nice to kind of do it away from Mantic as well. Not that makes much difference, but I think you can just feel a bit more comfortable in your own surroundings. I kind of just sat and have a chat. I didn't feel like there was anything I couldn't ask him. But I think there's plenty of other stuff we could follow up in the future as well. So if you did enjoy it, please make sure you kind of share it with your friends and stuff. He had a little bit of a chat about these days at Games Workshop, a little bit about kind of like sort of starting up a business like that Mantic is, and how he likes kind of sort of the size that Mantic is now, much better than when it was kind of him in a room on his own trying to do 25 jobs on his own, and he probably wouldn't do it again from scratch, which was quite interesting. But yeah, I think there's plenty of room there to ask him more stuff. So if you did enjoy it, go and comment on the video. Let me know you'd like to see more, and we'll get back together with Ronnie in the future. Jess says, yeah, I just remembered, great interview. Thank you very much, mate. Luke Pryor, good evening to you, fella. How are you doing? Glenn says, Ronnie interview was great. Don't forget, if you want any of the Walking Dead resins, the deadline for ordering is February 28th. Yeah, that's coming up quick. What's that? Is that next week? I think it is. It's pretty close, isn't it? James has been meaning to check out the latest interview. Been away on vacation, so haven't had a chance. Hopefully during some hobby time later, it'll still be there for you to watch, mate. Don't worry about that. And Starky's Man Cave says, I know you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but Umbrella Academy don't look good to me. I love Mantic too. I guess it depends what you're after, mate, really. I mean, it is a board game. It's not a miniatures game in terms of something like Walking Dead or anything like that. It is very much a board game with kind of like, it's a card-driven game, really. And the miniatures are basically kind of like tokens to show your location on a board kind of thing. But I enjoyed the game, I must admit. I had fun playing it. I do like the Umbrella Academy kind of background. I've watched the TV show, I've read some of the graphic novels. So I quite like the background to it. It's not going to be for everyone in the same way that kind of, I'm not interested in sort of the Skyrim games. That's not really my kind of background stuff. The miniatures don't do anything for me. It's like, horses for courses, I said before. Not everybody has to like everything. And even if you absolutely love Mantic, like, you don't have to like everything they do, in the same way that if you're not a fan of Games Workshop, you can still like some things they do. It's just like, the world's a wonderful place. Wayne Hayward says, great interview. Shout out to Mantic for their customer service. Very impressive. I'll be honest, mate. Mantic's customer service is pretty good, but I really, really wish that they would kind of get on top of some of the mispacks. I hear so often, I've had them myself as well, and I've had to contact them, and yes, they've dealt with the problem, which is great, and I guess it's always nice to have your problem resolved. I just wish there wasn't as many problems as there is, if you like, when it comes to mispacks and stuff like that. So yeah, that's Umbrella Academy. So what we'll do now is, now we've got a nice little crowd in, we'll touch on the other topic I wanted to chat to tonight. And that is about kind of based upon the fact that a certain Mr. Cavill arrived at Warhammer World last week. And just for those of you that haven't seen the pictures, there was a very nice picture I just saw this evening that was on Twitter, and this was him kind of meeting the Warhammer World, kind of like this. I think it's the store team basically, and it's nice to see people kind of like sort of seeing these things and having a, like, how can I put it? It's that feeling of kind of like, having a good day at work kind of thing. So it was nice to see that anyway. And what it kind of made me think about today, and it's not like, there are a lot of famous people, if you like, over the years who have been associated with wargaming, basically, be that kind of Warhammer or be it other wargaming things. And let me just get my little notes up here, because I did make a note of a few of them that have been around over the years. And some of the ones that's kind of been mentioned, I think Vin Diesel has been kind of sort of plays Blood Angels. Apparently, he certainly has some miniatures, if that's the case. He's more kind of into his Dungeons and Dragons type stuff, and I want to touch on Dungeons and Dragons in a little bit as well. He's certainly more into Dungeons and Dragons, but he certainly has some kind of miniatures. I don't think it's been proven that he actually plays games, but he certainly has some miniatures. I know Trey Parker, who's one of the co-creators of South Park, he's very much a tabletop and board gaming kind of aficionado. If you've seen some of the episodes of South Park, you'll see like little kind of sort of Easter eggs in the background. There was a copy of Core Space in the back of one kind of shot on South Park once. So yeah, so Trey Parker is certainly another one as well. The Robin Williams, the kind of the famous sort of comedian who's unfortunately no longer with us, certainly had it was into kind of miniatures and stuff as well many back in the day, and I think he kind of I think he was certainly rumoured to have played with other celebrities as well when it comes to games. Ed Sheeran was kind of had mentioned, I think a little while ago, a few years back, about when he's kind of backstage and he's kind of relaxing prior to kind of shows and stuff, he sometimes kind of sits and paints Warhammer miniatures. And who was the other one? And obviously Henry Cavill as well. Now, another one that we did see recently were these folks, and these were a couple of WWE wrestlers. And this one is, if I forget her name, is it Shayna Baszler? I'm not into wrestling. I don't really know who these people are. And the other one is Cesaro, is it? And these were the pictures that they took. They had a bit of a tour. Let me just get rid of that. They had a bit of a tour around Warhammer World as well. And there were some pictures online of them two kind of getting involved and enjoying their day out, having a look around, managing to play kind of like bits and pieces. And they seemed quite sort of like, they very, very sort of open, if you like, about sort of that they were into kind of hobbying and playing games and stuff like that. We recently saw a Warhammer video with Andy Serkis, the actor and the director. Although I get the impression he was like, there was a bit of a PR thing going on there. That basically he is voicing one of the Warhammer characters in a video game, and I think he was on site to kind of do a bit of cross promotion and a bit of marketing. So I'm not necessarily sure that he's really kind of like a Warhammer player, if you like. But the point being is that we've had famous people in the past who basically have been rumoured to have played, or kind of they've shared pictures of them maybe with some miniatures or something like that. But what I would say is at the moment is certainly with these wrestlers and this Henry Cavill thing at the moment, it's the first time anybody has really actively said, I enjoy kind of the tabletop hobby, I paint miniatures, I build models, I play the games, and I'm kind of like, I'm proud of it type thing. Everything else has almost been like, there's been a rumour that he's got an army kind of thing. And the question I'm asking tonight really is, can that very kind of like that open kind of sort of sharing of their hobby by celebrities, can that really kick on our, what I would suggest is a relatively niche hobby? Could it kick it on to a more mainstream sort of audience? And the reason I say this is if you look at what happened with Dungeons and Dragons over the last few years, as you had people like Joe Manganiello, who's an actor, you've got people, I'm trying to remember half the people now, basically, there are a lot of famous people basically who are now in and around Dungeons and Dragons. And are very, very open about the fact that they do live streams on TV now. There's been like charity streams on things like Comic Relief and stuff where they've done like sort of Dungeons and Dragons streams. It's becoming much more socially acceptable and much more mainstream compared to where it was a number of years ago. I mean, a perfect example is my twin sons. They've played miniature games with me. They're not really into it these days. They're kind of a bit older and a bit like, a bit cooler, wanting to go for beers with their friends and stuff like that. They're obviously into the video games. One of my sons was telling me a couple of weeks ago, he's now playing Dungeons and Dragons online. With a group of friends, I would never have said in a million years that he would be a Dungeons and Dragons player, but he's kind of embracing it now and he's enjoying it and he's playing with his friends. And I think a lot of it is to do with the fact that the people he plays online video games with and his friends are a lot more open to Dungeons and Dragons now because it's less geeky than it used to be. When I was a kid, like playing video games was geeky and you were kind of seen as some kind of like living in your mother's basement, playing video games kind of glued to a screen kind of thing. So it's amazing how these things change with a little bit of kind of sort of a little bit more mainstream kind of coverage, if you like. And I think that what's happening is we've got a generation of people, much like us, I guess, kind of people in their 30s and 40s who grew up with miniature gaming, grew up with video games, becoming adults with disposable income and still play miniatures now. And it's only not obvious, but even by the law of kind of like sort of averages, that some of the people that enjoy our hobby will be famous people. And so that's exactly what seems to be happening. We're starting to see them people coming through now. Now, I'm sure people will kind of level the argument of like, oh, they're going to ruin it, it's going to become woke and all that kind of stuff. I don't really kind of sign up to that way of thinking. Personally, for me, I think that it can only be a good thing. I think that the more mainstream it becomes, the more people that play it, the more people that are exposed to it, the more we see shops opening, the more we see companies investing in it, the more we see kind of more options, and the more accessible it becomes. Like, instead of becoming like niche little kind of things that you can only get online or you can or sell out really quick or something like that because they're not made in big enough numbers, I think we will start to see it expand. And I personally would like to think that this could be the start of sort of wargaming, miniature gaming, tabletop gaming, taking that next step. I think board games have had a resurgence recently, and I think certainly Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games have taken another on another level as well. I think it could potentially be the time of tabletop games. We see things like Warhammer Plus now. Obviously, Games Workshop are making enough money to be able to invest and go into different kind of avenues. And I think that when you start to see people like Henry Cavill come into Warhammer World and you see these WWE wrestlers come into Warhammer World in the UK, that to me says that there's other things happening in the background as well. Yes, it might be a PR thing. He might have been paid to be there, whatever it is. But he is still sort of proud to have his persona, his personality attached to that, regardless of whether he was paid for it or not. Does it mean that he's going to be trying to sort of like, is he there for other reasons as well? Is he trying to get some kind of live action Warhammer show off the ground or something like that? Who knows? But personally speaking, I think it can only be a good thing. It'll rise all tides, as they say, or rise all ships. You know, to say like a rising tide rises all ships. So it doesn't matter if you're into Games Workshop or not. If you're into other games, I think it will generally just kind of raise the visibility of the kind of the games that we all love and play. So let's have a little look in the chat and see what we've got here. Yeah, Jez saying he's had mispacks too. Deep Red, hail and well met to you as well, mate. Rob says, note to self, don't pour paint from the big bottle to the little bottle when the cat's on his lap. Jason says Peter Cushing was writing his Wargaming. I think I've seen Peter Cushing in a like a video online of him talking about it and being interviewed about it. Tony Apple says I avoided reposting my house makeover as I'm sure that people are tired of seeing it, but was tempted to repost in the Ronnie interview post as I know Ronnie likes his terrain. Yeah, feel free to share it, mate. Yeah, Peter Cushing, Robin Williams was an elder player back in the day. Luke says, yeah, I remember that now, mate. Paul says, let's not forget H.G. Wells. You were right, mate, as well. Good evening, Paul, by the way. Luke says he played with Billy Crystal. I have heard that before, mate, yeah. Paulie P, Peter Cushing loved these war games. He certainly did. Mini Wormwood says Jack Black's kind of big in D&D. There's quite a lot of famous people now. If anybody's seen, there's a video on YouTube, which is, what's he called? Joe Manganiello, and about his kind of famous D&D group that come to his very lavish sort of basement and come and play D&D. I think there's like a famous rock star that plays in there. I think is this. Who's the other one? Is it? There's like sort of like a film director. There's plenty of famous people who are all in this group together who play anyway. Jess says first Wargamers rules were written by H.G. Wells, who wrote War of the Worlds and the Time Machine. He called Little Wars. Yeah, I remember that. I think it was Little Wars for boys or something though, wasn't it? Busey says Phil Mitchell collects and paints orcs. Not sure if he plays though. I think they're probably just like sort of like mini family members. I think. Christian says get your OG BlackJack Legacy t-shirts. Thank you very much, mate. Sharing the link there as well. Glenn says Northern Exile, a YouTuber, former GW store manager, said he had Bill Bailey in his store buying models. I think I remember hearing that as well, mate. And I think I remember listening to that, and he kind of made it sound like Bill Bailey was a bit of a, I don't know if he was a bit of a dick or a bit of a kind of like a bit of a show off. I forget now. Joey Beatty or Jaska in The Witcher is playing 40k. He said in a Netflix talk with Henry. I bet he did as well. Tony says it's likely they're among us and using pseudonyms so they can enjoy a normal life. I think that's the thing as well. I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? Like if you have it doesn't matter what it is. If you have a large enough cross section of people. Like there's going to be somebody in there who's like into kind of tabletop gaming. It's like the amount of famous people who kind of like love going fishing for the kind of the peace and quiet, or the amount of famous people who say like they knit. Like for example, the amount of like look at Rod Stewart with his kind of model trains and stuff. He's been quite open about that. When there was a model train show got trashed by some vandals, he basically kind of handed over some cash for them to try and get it all back on track and get it rebuilt again. So there are some famous people out there who don't mind kind of talking about their maybe less mainstream hobbies. But it seems a little bit strange that we don't hear more about kind of people who were into kind of Warhammer or into kind of miniature painting or something like that. It's the kind of thing where you can certainly sort of put together a small little set to kind of travel with. If you're like sitting on film shoots and you kind of sitting tucked away somewhere, you want a bit of peace and quiet. If you're traveling, I'm just surprised we don't hear about it more. Yeah, Peter's saying there, but remember the video of Peter Cushing? I do remember it, mate. Michael Cowan says, don't forget. Yeah, everyone's talking about Peter Cushing. I think, unfortunately, Peter Cushing is not the kind of person these days who's gonna trigger the young people, shall we say, to get into it. Mini Wormwood says Deborah Ann Wolfe as well. Yes, she's massive into the D&D stuff, man. I think she's written kind of like D&D modules for Wizards of the Coast. She's quite heavily into that side of things now as well. I think another person as well is, what's his name? The guy that's he plays Shaggy in the Scooby-Doo films, and he's in Scream. I forget his name now, but he has a company called, is it Beadle something? Or Deedle something maybe, and they make basically like accessories for Dungeons and Dragons and stuff as well. So yeah, he's massively into that. Michael says his Cavillness may not make it cool, but potentially make people take a second look. And that's kind of what I'm trying to say is I'm taking the mick a little bit with the title there, or that side, about are we the cool kids now kind of thing. But what I'm trying to say is these kind of stories make it into mainstream media. Like if you have a look online, you'll already see there'll be newspapers talking about it that wouldn't have normally mentioned it. There'll be film sites talking about it that wouldn't have normally mentioned Warhammer. There will be kind of like movie blogs. There will be sort of radio stations. You know, there'll be media talking about it that wouldn't ordinarily talk about our hobby. And if that just kind of breaks down a few barriers to make people think, oh, maybe it's not as geeky as I thought it was, kind of thing, I can only see that being like a good thing, really. Yeah, Alcian, she's a great DM. Yeah, she is, mate. Deborah Ann Wolf. Jess says, the more the merrier. More players, more games. It's a golden age. I agree, mate. I prefer to look at things from a positive aspect rather than a negative, and I like to think that people will always be able to hobby the way they enjoy a hobby. It's not like if you enjoy playing your games at home, nothing's going to change. It's not like nobody's going to come around and tell you you're doing it wrong, kind of thing, if more people start getting into it. I just think when more people are into something, there tends to be more opportunities to enjoy it and lots of different flavors of it. Like, think of it like ice cream. If they only made one flavor of ice cream because only a few people ate it, and then it became popular, and then they made lots of different flavors of ice cream, that's kind of what I'm getting at. I'm simplifying it, of course, but you know what I'm trying to say. Paul says Warhammer is on the cusp of becoming mainstream and has been for a while, but I really disagree. That'll be good for the hobby. I think it'll be good for sales, but terrible for Warhammer. I don't see it sort of. I personally don't see the negative side of me. I know a lot of people will feel the same. People feel like this about Star Wars and about all the different kind about Marvel, and it's like, oh, they're killing the thing I love, kind of thing. Nobody kills this stuff. It's just things change over time, and the things that you loved when you were younger have to change to kind of stay alive. Everything changes. That's just the way of the world. There's only one constant in the world, and that's that things need to change. So I don't think it's going to be bad for Warhammer. I don't think it's going to be kind of bad for the hobby. I think you can choose to look at it on the negative side, but I guess you're kind of like looking at kind of glass half full a little bit in that respect. But I do agree. I think it's been on the cusp for a little while now of becoming mainstream. I think things like the video games have done a really good kind of like a favour to Warhammer, if you like. I think the fact that we've seen things coming the other way, so we've seen sort of IPs and video game licenses coming into tabletop gaming show that there's a bit of a crossover audience as well. So I think it only takes 2 or 3 more things, I think, to kind of tip it over the edge. And I think this sort of Henry Cavill thing might be just one of them. I know it was mentioned on the Graham Norton show a little while ago, and that got a bit of coverage. But the fact that he's kind of very publicly come into Warhammer world and kind of, you know, taking photos with everybody, I just think it can only be a good thing personally. Matthew Lillard, that's the guy I was trying to remember his name. Yes, Beetle and the Bard. Thank you, Christian. I knew I'd seen a video about it. They do some kind of like high-end sort of D&D accessory type stuff, which were pretty cool. I remember watching. Let's have a little look here, because that's just jumped ahead there. VJ says the one thing Nick Page really like, the hobby being more accessible. Yeah, well, screw them, mate, if that's the case. Ed says if nothing else, it'll make it less likely that kids get into tabletop will be considered weird and bullied. Yeah, and if that's the only thing that comes out of it, then that's a good thing, mate. Honestly, like nobody deserves to be kind of like to be sort of poked fun at for what their hobbies are. Everybody should be just free to enjoy whatever they enjoy. Tony says Roger Daltrey and Rod Stewart are big model rail geeks. There's a lot of crossover between mini and hobby and a model rail. Yeah, there is. Except I think people still poke fun at model railway things as well, but maybe to a lesser extent randomly. Ed says there's a rumor he's interested in playing Gregor Eisenhorn. It wouldn't surprise me if that was part of the purpose for the trip. Will be of being speaking to some maybe some higher ups to try and see how they can make things work together in the future. you've seen the kind of success of The Witcher and that type of stuff. I'm sure he could like basically be able to sort of use his influence within the Hollywood side of things to kind of to get some of the Warhammer stuff off the ground as well. Greg says Satine Phoenix. Don't even know what that is, mate. Christian says, how long until GW do a Henry Cavill Space Marine sculpt? There might be a licensing thing there, mate. It might be a problem. Paul says, rising tides raising all ships is a myth. It's not a myth, mate, at all. Following the big GW turnaround after Roundtree took over, there were a lot of small businesses went under. Also, look where privateer press are now. Yeah, but what you have to realise is that, there are always going to be, if some people are in a precarious position to start with, and people are not buying their product, they're not suddenly going to start buying it because somebody else is doing well. What I mean is that basically, if it raises the profile of wargaming through Warhammer, it will just put more eyes onto the whole of the industry. If your business is under threat anyway, if you've got problems, it's not going to suddenly make the problems go away. That's the point. Peter says, Henry Cavill mentioned that the chandelier in one of the episodes in The Witcher looked like a Blackstone forest. I remember seeing that in an interview, mate, as well, yeah. Jess says, didn't Rod Stewart's model missus leave him because of his real way? They're still married, mate, aren't they? I don't think she's left him, mate. Minnie Warmwood says, Joe Manganiello's big-time D&D player, yeah. Also jealous because his wife is Sofia Vergara. Yes. Starty's Man says, the future will have Warhammer World Cup televised. I don't think it's ever going to get to the point. A prime example is the fact that esports is massive now, and it's still never made it mainstream onto TV. It's on YouTube, it's kind of on Twitch and all that kind of stuff. There are stadiums built for it. It's a huge kind of thing now. You've got like lots of like sort of sports teams investing in esports, and I think in the future it will continue to grow, but it's never going to be mainstream TV because the people that control it are still kind of, you know, they're old people who like what they like. If you look and see what's on BBC now and ITV and all that kind of stuff, it's mainstream, the same quiz shows that you see every time. It's X Factor, it's all that kind of stuff. So I don't think we'll ever see Warhammer kind of World Cup televised on TV, but we might start to see kind of coverage of some kind. You know, I could imagine we might see some like documentary type stuff about it. Kodo says, trying to stay positive, but having celebs playing GW games can backfire in the current situation with GW's pricing on being the hobby for rich people. I disagree, mate. I don't think Warhammer has ever been cheap. I think it's always been a pricey hobby, if you like. Prices are going up, of course they are, but the prices of everything is going up as well. I don't see, like, having someone like Henry Cavill involved isn't going to suddenly make sort of Space Marines cost like £100 for like a box of 5 kind of thing, where they normally say 30 quid. That's not going to have that knock-on effect. Luke says, I think Big Show Wrestler plays him. He does, mate. That's another one. I couldn't remember who it was. Tom Morello, that was the other one as well. The one I was saying about a rock star. I forgot which one it was, but yeah, Tom Morello it is. I think the story I heard, and I think it's on the interview with Joe Manganiello, was about like somebody was saying, oh, can my friend come and play? And he's like, oh, I'm not sure. Like it's like one of the dads from school or something. Kind of one of the dads from school come and play. He's dead interested in playing and stuff. And he's like, I'm not sure. Like we're getting pretty full in the air. And he went, oh, like it's Tom Morello. And he went, yeah, go on, yeah, he can come in that case. So yeah, that was pretty good. Paul saying, yeah, Rod Stewart's model railway is epic. There was something recently where we were asking him to Somebody was writing a story about it, and they asked him to send a photograph of it so they could put it in the piece. And he was like, "No, I don't want to send you a photo of it, just so you can kind of like take the piss a little bit." And I thought that was quite cool, actually. The fact that he's just like, "Yeah, I'm not like playing up to that kind of stereotype of it." Greg says the hobby side will be the biggest deterrent for growth until there are pre-painted options. It's why X-Wing took off so quickly. I don't think so, mate. I mean, there might be pre-painted stuff in the future, but the whole point of it is like, that is part of the hobby, in the same way that building like sort of like model cars and sort of people who like to paint stuff, you know what I mean? Like people who like to knit. You could just go out and buy a scarf, but people enjoy the kind of the tranquility and the relaxation of like knitting something. Like that's the whole point of the hobby. It's not just about the gaming. There will be people who want to game, and you know what? They might never paint their miniatures. They might just buy their models and never paint them, and that's entirely up to them. but I don't think it's a deterrent. If anything, it can be the thing that gets people involved because they want to paint. It was the reason why I got involved. I never had any intention of ever playing games. I just wanted to paint because I wanted to relax. I wanted to sit and do something when I was stuck at home. And the hobbies that I used to have, like riding motorbikes and kind of going to football matches and going to away games and weekends away with my mates, all kind of stopped because I had twins at home and I had to look at a different kind of hobby. And I think everybody always goes, oh, people won't get into it because they won't want to paint or they won't want to build models. But that is the hobby. In the same way that people like to go fishing, if they just wanted to catch a fish, they could just go to the supermarket and buy a fish. Do you know what I mean? They could go to the chip shop and get one already cooked. In the same way that if people didn't want to enjoy cooking hobbies, they could just go to a restaurant and buy food. So it's kind of like, it's a mixed bag, really. So I don't think it's a deterrent. It might not be for everybody, but then no hobby is for everyone. Ian saying the times they are changing. Yeah, and personally for me, I hope it's all for the positive as well. Tizzy Brindrin says the full title of Little Wars was Little Wars, a game for boys from 12 years of age to 150 for the more intelligent sort of girl who likes boys, games and books. Yeah, I remember that now. Matthew Lillard, yeah, everybody's shouting at me. Yeah, that's the one. Thank you. Peter says Little Wars. That's how he's just saying the same thing. I'd love to play in a game run by Tom Morello. Jimmy Morasco, hello. He says Robin Williams was big into Warhammer. Yep, we mentioned that earlier on, mate. Ian's, what was Ian saying there before that went off my screen? He says, never underestimate Peter Cushing. He will destroy you. Austin says, I feel the more people that play war games, the better. Cavill talking about the hobby will undoubtedly get people look into it who would have otherwise never been exposed. That's exactly, mate. Exactly my point. A prime example is this week I was having a conversation with somebody over the weekend on Facebook. I posted the thumbnail for the interview that I did with Ronnie, and obviously in the thumbnail there's a picture of Ronnie there sitting right here where I'm standing now, and it's got Games Workshop and something written underneath it. I forget what the words were now, and they said you should have put Mantic in the title. You should have put Mantic in the thumbnail because he works for Mantic, he owns Mantic. And I said, look, I'm trying to introduce this to a wider audience of people who ordinarily wouldn't click on it if it had a Mantic tag on it. Because if you are a Mantic fan and you see Ronnie in the thumbnail, you go, I like Ronnie, I like Mantic, I want to hear what he's got to say. So you click on that video and you watch it. If you're not a fan of Mantic, or you've never heard of Mantic, or you don't play any of their games, but you see Games Workshop in the thumbnail, you think, oh, I wonder what he's going to talk about. So then you click on it and you find out that he used to work for Games Workshop for 15 years. He ran most of their expansion into into America and across Europe. He had a number of senior positions that he was working there, and now he has this other company, and these are all the games and miniatures that they make. And all of a sudden, people who wouldn't ordinarily have clicked on it are clicking on it and finding out a bit more about Mantic. Somebody even commented on the video saying, never looked at Mantic stuff before, had a look on their website while I was listening to this video. They've got some awesome minis. And that was the point I was trying to make. And what you were saying there, Austin, is exactly the same thing. It's about kind of getting people to look at it who wouldn't ordinarily look at it. If they look at it and it's not for them, there's nothing lost. But it opens people's eyes, it opens people's opinions, and it opens their minds a little bit. Mini One, which is time to sit back and listen while putting the racking and gobs together. Sarah Disco Dolly says 40k will be neutered by popularity. Completely disagree. Having such a negative outlook on life, and you go on to mention about Star Wars is dead as well. Star Wars is not dead. Come on, Mandalorian is one of the most watched shows. There was nothing wrong with Mandalorian. Boba Fett has been bashed because people like to kind of bash things, but I enjoyed that as well. I like the Bad Batch. There's nothing wrong. Star Wars is not a dead license. Austin says, also, the more people play Warhammer, the more people will play indie games. That's exactly my point about the rising tide rises all ships, is that people, like when I started painting Warhammer miniatures because I wanted something to do. And then I decided to try and play it, and the game wasn't for me. I didn't really enjoy it. But what it did was it made me aware that there was a wider hobby out there, and I started looking, and I got into Malifaux. And then here I am, years later, this is my full-time job. From never playing it really as a kid, never really been involved in it, picking up a few models to paint, and here I am now doing this full-time. So it just shows, like not everybody kind of has to get into this as a kid. Not everybody has to kind of go into it or find it the kind of the same way by finding a Games Workshop on the high street or by having an older brother sort of introduce it to them or something like that. Jim says, I'm not an investment expert, but buying GW shares with all my spare cash for the last 2 years has earned me quite a lot of hobby cash and a good chunk of my children's potential uni fees. Yeah, I mean, that's it, mate. Paul says, the downside of mass appeal is it has to be bland. It doesn't have to be bland. It doesn't have to be bland at all. That's just, do you know what it is? That's internet talk. Like saying that it has to be bland. It has to be for everyone. I think you're missing the point, right? And the point is that if something becomes more mass market, that's because people liked it for what it was and it grows from there. And yes, it might change over time and all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't have to be bland. It's just that more people like it. Marvel movies are a prime example, right? That they are mass appeal now. They've gone from being a very niche, very kind of geeky comic book nerd type sort of stereotypical thing to like the biggest movie franchises in the world. But the movies are still good. Like they still have very kind of complex stories. They're still reaching out across the different storylines. They're not bland. They might not be for everybody, but they're just as sort of deep and interesting as the old comic books used to be. Mini One watches get Ronnie to introduce Kings of War to Henry Cavill. You never know, mate, do you? Christian sharing the link there for merch. Thank you very much, mate. Paul says privately oppressed weren't in a precarious position. They weren't in a precarious position, but they screwed their own game over, mate. Third edition of War Machine and Hordes was awful. They absolutely ruined it. I used to play a second edition, and it was a great game. It was nothing to do with Games Workshop becoming more popular. That killed the game. They killed the game themselves. It says a rising tide will swallow a few ships. It will swallow a few ships who are already about to sink, mate. That's the thing. Sarah saying TV is dead. The net is where it's happening. I think people who spend a lot of money advertising would suggest TV is not dead. It's just changing. The net is not where it's happening. Streaming services is where it's happening. The investment into things like Amazon and Disney Plus and Hulu and HBO and Netflix and all that kind of stuff. TV isn't dead. People just consume it in a different way now. Also, I think Cavill will be a great Eisenhorn, especially with his passion. And I look forward to his Highlander. Yeah, I saw your comment there, mate. I hadn't seen that was new use. Tony says, yeah, pseudonym thing. I doubt they use a pseudonym for embarrassment, just wanting to be treated like one of the gang. I guess it's one of them things, mate, where it's dead easy these days to just order some stuff online and sit at home and paint. Nobody ever needs to know. I hardly set foot in a store these days. I don't really have a local store that sells the stuff that I buy. So I tend to buy most of my stuff online. I could be anybody. In the same way, I'm sure if there's some of the bigger stores, we'll probably have some famous named customers. It wouldn't surprise me, or certainly somebody buying them on their behalfs. Greg says Google. I won't be Googling that, mate. Hopefully we get good people, but less political attacks. Not everything has to be about politics, man. I know people love to kind of put politics into everything these days. At the end of the day, right, if you concentrate on the things that you have in common with people, instead of the things that you don't have in common, the world would be a much happier place. If people focused on the things that we all enjoy, rather than the things that we don't agree on, like half the battles wouldn't happen. Let's have a little look here. That one's scrolling past fast now as well. Perkins says, do you feel YouTube with channels like Critical Role and other mainstream types playing games is making geek culture more mainstream? I think it's it's one and the same, mate. I think as things like YouTube becomes more popular and Twitch becomes more popular and become more acceptable, like people like me have grown up with YouTube now. Like to me, I watch YouTube in the same way I would watch kind of like TV, if you like. Like I will sit and flick through and look at different things. I'll search for some stuff or I'll watch the stuff that's recommended to me. Like I watch a lot more YouTube than I ever do TV channels, really. And I think it's a bit of both. All right. Oh, that one. Tony Howell, thank you very much, buddy. I think as geeky things become more popular, and I mean that right across the board, things like Lord of the Rings movies, when they came out back in the day, it made kind of like fantasy cool again. things like Stranger Things, making D&D a bit cooler. You've got things like Critical Role, which the high production values of Critical Role, making it seem much more kind of like, oh, it's not that kind of like four guys sitting in a basement that I thought it was kind of thing. All these things coming together are all kind of raising geek culture to a point that is more mainstream now. Like I said before about Marvel movies and stuff. So I think it's kind of one and the other. I think D&D is more popular because of like a number of things, but then the platforms that they're on have become more popular as well, so more people get to see them. So I think there's some crossover there as well. Marcus says, on BBC America, I've seen 40k commercials. I was going to say, I don't think we even get 40k commercials in the UK, mate. Jez says, I bloody hope enormously famous, talented, wealthy, good-looking Henry Cavill is a painter. I think I've seen his painting on Instagram, mate, and I can't remember what it's like. And Tony saying, yeah, thankfully satanic panic has subsided. Yeah, I think that's well past us now, mate, to be fair. John says, I like the dual aspect of the hobby, aspect of the holiday time on my own, chilling out, but time meeting up with friends with a little gentle competition. I agree, mate. Yeah, I completely agree. Ed saying pre-paints would help pull in board game crowd, but the number of people who've shown an interest right up to that point you mentioned, the expectation to paint. I think that's something we almost need to get over, mate, is that you don't have to paint to play tabletop games. And that's almost the gatekeeping of tabletop gamers, if you like. I never expect anybody to have to paint their games to play a game with me. If they do paint them, the game looks nice and it makes for a very visual experience. But if I'm just having fun with like a friend, I'm not going to say to them, I'm not playing you to paint your miniatures. I just want to have a fun experience. And if the painting it is not for them, it's not for them. So I think telling people that they have to paint their miniatures all the time is almost like that's on us to stop doing that if that's the case. If that's the barrier to somebody, they shouldn't not get into it. They shouldn't not collect miniatures because somebody tells them they have to paint them. They shouldn't not play the games because somebody tells them they have to paint them. I just think that's quite kind of like, it's a bit narrow-minded. If more people got into it and didn't paint, I mean, look at the amount of people that get into the hobby and never play a game. Like, are we telling them, well, you have to play, otherwise you can't collect miniatures. You can't paint miniatures if you're not going to play with them. Are we not just doing the same thing? John says, I think the dual aspect may keep it, excuse me, I told you my throat would dry out. The dual aspect may keep it niche though. I reckon that does only attract people who want both. But that's my point, mate. I don't think it necessarily has to be. Right, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because I think I'm well behind. Luke saying there's never a negative for promoting something in any positive light. It brings people in. Way too much negative nonsense being spoken about something that's positive. I agree, mate, as well. Tasty Brain Drain says, as someone who was put off for painting by years, I definitely think it's a deterrent for some people. It's my point. You don't have to paint. Don't let people force you into this mentality of you must paint your miniatures. They're your miniatures. You're buying them. You do whatever the hell you want with them. Andrew says the only thing that could help 40k the most would be for people to stop being so shy about it. Yeah, I agree with that as well, mate. Like if people are just a bit more open about it. It's like video games. For years, people didn't really talk. Certainly, like older people didn't talk about video games. Like my father-in-law is in his 70s and he plays video games. Like he's not frightened to kind of talk about it. Like I picked him up a PS5 not long ago because he was like, how do I get one? Like every time I have a look, they're out of stock and stuff. And I went, look, if you go in, like there's a Discord server, then it'll send you a link when they kind of go back into stock, but you've got to be quick. And I went, do you want me to just get you one? He went, yeah, will you do that? I just got him a PS5 not long ago. Like times have changed. And I think this is going to be something the same as well. Andrew says, has it ever been confirmed Henry Cavill's ever played a game? No, I don't think it has, mate, but he doesn't have to, does he? he's enjoying his hobby his way. I think he might have mentioned something about it when he was on the Graham Norton show, saying that he did invite people over to play and stuff like that. So I'm assuming he's got like friends who play or something. I can't imagine he's not posting on a forum somewhere asking for people to come round. So I assume he does, but doesn't really matter if he doesn't, does it? Paul says, being honest, I wouldn't play against someone with an unpainted army, and I wouldn't play with one. Well, that's you, mate. You do your hobby your way. That's fine. All I'm saying is people don't have to. In the same way, two people with unpainted armies might be quite happy to just play against each other. They might never want to play against you because they might say, well, having the army, it's really intimidating having the army painted, and it kind of puts me off, so I don't want to play against painted armies. Is that any worse? Is it any different? Is it any better? It's just people enjoying their hobbies their own way. If you only want to play painted armies, whether it be your own or your opponent's, absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with that, mate. It's your hobby, play it how you like. But everybody's different, and we should never say to people, you can't come and enjoy the hobby your own way because you have to paint it. I just think that's wrong. I find it strange. King Blue Slims, good evening, King Blue. Says, why are people motivated to gatekeep their games? What do they gain? I've never understood that, mate. I've never understood it. I think people are frightened that the thing that they love will be changed by allowing somebody else to enjoy it too. And that blows my mind. If that's the reason, I find that quite astounding. The thing I love will always be the thing I love. Nobody's going to change the thing I love. Like, for example, like this is my phone, right? Just because somebody else buys a phone that is like mine doesn't mean my phone changes. It's still mine. In the same way, all the games that's on my shelf over there, if those rules change, doesn't matter. The games I've got, and I'm still enjoying and still playing. So maybe I'm a bit of an idealist, and maybe I'm not the majority. But I tell you what, I'd much rather kind of enjoy the hobby my own way and not let things I can't control like ruin it, if you like. Not let other people's worries and other people's problems and other people's decisions ruin the things that I enjoy. I find it frustrating. Jamie says, we need a celebrity spokesman for all our tabletop games. Post Malone for Magic. Yeah, Henry Cavill for Warhammer. And now we need Scarlett Johansson playing Infinity. Scarlett Johansson, sorry. James says, there is a big push amongst 30-something that grew up with video games and the internet to have analog hobbies now, and tabletop games are perfectly analogous to video games to be popular. Yeah, I agree, mate. Ed saying, you're setting people up for bad experience if you don't warn them that prejudice exists. You don't need to warn people that prejudice exists. There's prejudice that exists in life, in everything. Like, people don't not get into watching football because there are some people who do swear at the match. There are some people who make racist comments at the match. People don't not get into football because of that. People don't it's like anything. You don't need to warn people about all the bad things in life. Just tell them about all the good stuff and let them work it out for themselves. Like, people, I find if you focus on negative stuff, you will only ever see negativity. Paul says, you say we should stop expecting people to paint their armies. My point was that painted aspect is really important to me, but by your rationale, I'm a gatekeeper. I'm not saying you're a gatekeeper, mate. If you tell other people they can only enjoy the game if they paint their armies, then that is gatekeeping. If you're saying I don't want to play anybody who isn't painted, but you can do what you want, then that's not gatekeeping. So I'm not saying that you're being a gatekeeper. I'm saying when people are talking tonight about the thing that puts people off is that you have to paint your army, what I'm saying is, but you don't have to paint it. It's a purely personal choice. You don't have to paint anything. Now, if you personally enjoy playing the game with painted minis, be they your own or your opponent's, that's fine. You enjoy it how you want to enjoy it. You're not doing any harm. You're not stopping anybody else from enjoying their hobby. That's not gatekeeping. But if you tell somebody they are not allowed to enjoy their hobby, they're not allowed to play games at this shop, they're not allowed to play games at this club, whatever it is, if you're stopping somebody from enjoying their hobby, then that's gatekeeping. And that's not what I'm saying you're doing. What I'm saying is that basically there shouldn't be an expectation there. There should be an expectation that people find the hobby for themselves and enjoy the aspects that they enjoy. Ed saying, people have often been badly treated for being into gaming. They can find it hard to trust people who look like their tournaments coming into their space. I don't quite understand that, mate. Jez says, he's talking about something else, replying to somebody else. John says, I love that in this day of the age, there are still people slowly painting and building and collecting things. Investing in imagination and childlike wonder is great. I agree, mate. It's about creativity. It's about fun. It's about relaxation. It's about a hobby. Like, remember, hobbies are about sort of bringing you joy and bringing you fun and bringing you interest and something to look forward to doing at the end of the day. Like, we all have to work in order to put food on the table and pay the electric bill and all that kind of stuff. We don't all get to enjoy our jobs, unfortunately. I spent years doing stuff I absolutely hated to make sure that I had a roof over my head. And I'm fortunate to do something now that I do enjoy. But not everybody does. And that's what we all have in common, is that no matter what you do for a job, no matter how stressful your life is, no matter what you've got going on, if you've got a hobby, no matter what that is, your hobby can be going for a run. Your hobby can be sitting drawing. It could be doing crosswords. It can be watching the TV. Whatever your hobby is, as long as you have something that you're passionate about to do at the end of the day, then that's what a hobby is. Like, that's the bit I find strange, that people have to impose their own personal feelings on other people. You can have your own personal feelings about your hobby, but you shouldn't have them about anybody else's. Phil Campbell, good evening, mate. How are you doing? Zingbo says this live stream chat is taking a turn I was not expecting. Hey, sometimes that's the way they go, mate. Sometimes that's the way they go. Chris Warden says, damn straight, Andy, you don't have to pay 100%, mate. Ed says, tormentors, the people who bullied them. Yeah, I get that, mate, but like, at the end of the day, we just have to, the world is not a nice place all the time. Do you know what I mean? And you can focus on all the bad stuff, but if you focus on all the bad stuff, you'll only think of the bad stuff. Anyway, Vincent says, it's what my club enforces. So don't go to that club, mate. That's what I mean. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. That club can enforce painted armies, for example, right? Because that club has been set up to enforce painted armies. Somebody can't, like, I don't agree with anybody coming to that club and trying to change their rules. Just start another club. Play somewhere else where painted armies are not needed. That's my point. This is my point about it doesn't instantly make everything worse when things become more popular. Like, there's no reason to change the rules of a club that only wants painted armies. Like, they just, like, then it's like, for example, like, how do I say it, right? So if there is, I'm trying to think of an example for, like, just to try and sort of to do it. You have some pubs, some bars, some sort of clubs where you have to be a member to go to those places. And if I don't meet the requirements for being a member, like a golf club, for example, some golf clubs only let people play there who are a member. And if I say, I don't want to be a member, but I want to play at your golf club, then the problem's with me. It's not with them. They don't have to change the rules to allow non-members in. I just go and play somewhere else. If I want to play there, I abide by their rules. And it's the same when it comes to kind of like wargaming clubs. If that wargaming club has a rule that says that you have to be painted, you have to be painted. But if that wargaming club doesn't have a rule that says you have to be painted, or a tournament doesn't have a rule that says you have to be painted, there's no reason why that person should be kind of like sort of picked upon or made to feel little because they haven't painted them. That's the point I'm trying to make. David Mackay, good evening, mate. Sneaking in. Vincent says, the only painted army enforcement I agree to is for demo game armies, as they're supposed to represent the hobby. They're representing your hobby, mate. They're representing the kind of hobby that you enjoy. Like, if you're doing the demo game, show it off however you like. But demo games don't have to have painted miniatures, that otherwise they can't work, kind of thing. That's just your personal choice. Anyway, we're going to go round and round here. I have my own personal feelings, and opinions, and all I'm saying is I think that anybody basically who tells other people that they have to do things a certain way, I think are wrong. I think you can do whatever you want. You can have expectations on your games that you play, the games that you have at your house, the games that you want to play against. You can enjoy all of that kind of stuff, but people shouldn't be put off the hobby with this kind of global notion that you have to paint things, that's all. Greg says, logistically, 2 unpainted grey armies will be very confusing. If the people playing don't care, what does it matter to you? That's the point I'm making. I'm not asking you to play with 2 grey unpainted armies. I'm saying the people that are happy to play with 2 grey unpainted armies shouldn't be made to feel that they can't. That's the point I'm making. Mini Warm, which is off topic, I still have no idea why there are hollow circles on the bottom of the square base of Kings of War. Because, mate, the older miniatures used to come with like a little round plug on the bottom. So if you pick up any of the dwarves, any of the undead, the elves, that kind of thing, they come with like a little round plug on the bottom, and that little round plug used to fit inside the square base. These days, because they come on sprues and stuff, and they have like sort of the sculpts are different now, they don't have those little round plugs on the base anymore. So all you do is just kind of like flip the base over and just use the flat bit on the top. That's the reason that they're there, mate. Jess is saying, stop having fun the wrong way. Exactly, mate. Anyway, talking about having fun the right way, I'm going to give you the opportunity to win one of the new Kings of War starter sets. So, for those that don't know what they look like, Luke saying, does your head hurt from banging it against the brick wall? I just struggle sometimes. Like I'm genuinely just a positive person. I'm a real kind of believer, and if you think positive things, if you surround yourself with positive people, you will just generally be happier in life because you won't let things grind you down. And this is from experience. Like I've surrounded myself with COVID and pandemic shit for the last 2 years, and it drags you down and you become negative from it. I was in a job I absolutely detested doing, and I became negative because of it. And I just think that if you surround yourself with positive stuff, you're just generally a happier person. Let people enjoy what they enjoy. That's my point. Anyway, we're talking about, let me come back and find it. So, this, if you're not familiar with it, is the Kings of War, a Storm in the Shire's 2-player starter set. So, as you can see here, in it, there is all of these lovely models. There is the new Riftforged Orcs with one of the leader models, and all of these Halfling models as well with a new leader. These 2 new leader models as well are not available to buy separately yet. I'm sure they'll be out later on, but the first place they will be available will be in this starter set. So, if you want to win one, you have to do a couple of things. First of all, obviously, you need to be subscribed to this channel. If you're not subscribed to my channel, I can't give this away to a community member. A community member is somebody that's subscribed to the channel. So first of all, number 1, you need to be a subscriber to the BlackJack Legacy channel. The second thing you need to do is when this video is finished, if you're watching it back like in the rerun or anything like that, if you're watching it tonight, you can't do it. You need to do it. You need to come back to this video after the live stream's ended. And I want you to comment in the video comment section. I want you to tell me, if I was going to do some Kings of War content for this channel, what would you like to see on the channel? Would it be battle reports? Would it be painting? Would it be list building? Would it be kind of hobby content? How to multi-base? How to play? Would you like a kind of like a box to board type kind of series for new beginners, like for new people getting in? What would you like to see? So let me know in the comments. If I was going to do some Kings of War content on the channel, what would you like to see? What do you not see elsewhere? What would you like to see that you don't see on another channel, for example? Now, entries are open from tonight, from the end of this stream, and they close on March the 14th. So March the 14th is for a couple of reasons. One, it's a Monday, so I'll be doing the draw on March the 14th on the live stream, and it's also the day that pre-orders go live. So if you could win it before then, but you still wouldn't get it before then anyway. So I'm going to draw it on March the 14th, the day the pre-orders go live. Not the pre-orders, sorry. The day the pre-orders start shipping, I should say. So we're going to draw on the Monday, and you've basically got up until the point I draw the I do the draw on that Monday the 14th. So you've got to be a subscriber to the channel, and I will check. Leave me a comment on this video here, tonight's live stream. Leave me a comment on the video, not in the live stream chat, in the video comments. Leave me a comment about if I was going to do some Kings of War content, what would you like to see? And then we'll be drawing it on March the 14th. And that's it. Simple as that. So, where are we up to here? John says, I'm really happy to play against post-it note armies, but was just thinking to play the game as I play with minis, you've got to at least build them, which is the worst part of the hobby. I don't enjoy building them either, mate, but I don't get to do the bits I do enjoy, like painting them and playing the games, if I don't build them. So it's part of the hobby in that respect. Sunday Sykes says, conversation going round in circles. You're not wrong, mate. All 95 of you can leave now. Show over. 96, mate. That's all right. Jess says, it's a good looking starter. I mentioned last week on the live stream, I think it's the best starter set for Kings of War that Mantic have done. Paul says, I'm allowed to personally refuse to play an unpainted army. You are, mate, yeah. Clubs are allowed to ban unpainted armies. They are. Clubs don't have to accept it. So where exactly is this unjustified gatekeeping happening? I've not said anything about gatekeeping. I've not. I think you misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm saying when people say the thing that puts people off the hobby is that they need to paint their miniatures, they don't need to paint them. That's the point I'm making. So if people are put off by the fact they have to paint them, who's telling them they have to paint them? That's what I'm saying. James says, sorry mate, you can tell us where we need to put the comment a couple of times. Iceman says, can I play with unassembled minis? You can, mate. If the person you're playing against is happy with it, you go ahead. Marcus says, start with Kings of War lore and basic gameplay for it. Yeah, don't comment here, mate. See, James Bray, this is why you have to say it. Comment in the comments section on this video after it's been live. Yeah, in the Discord comment section, right? You know what? Put where you want. I'm past scared tonight. So, folks, what else? I tell you what. I'll let you put some questions in the chat. Oh, I'm going to let you put some questions in the chat while I nip next door to get a bottle of water, right? So stick some questions in. Let me get a drink of water, and I'll be straight back. So. Told you I wouldn't be long. That was it. Right. James says, I'm racing to finish my squad of Goblin Spearmen for the February challenge. Do a last plug for the challenge. Yes, if you haven't, you've got a week left for the February painting challenge, the February Fantasy Painting Challenge. All you have to do is paint a fantasy miniature. If you can convince me that it is it's from a fantasy setting, like Star Wars, can be sci-fi fantasy if you want it to be, kind of thing. Paint a fantasy miniature, take a picture of it, email it to me at blackjacklegacy@gmail.com by next Sunday, and you'll be entered into the live stream next week when I show off all of the different community painting stuff. Excuse me. Where are we up to here? Andrew Fairbanks says, unpainted army is cool, unbuilt army is no. So, got to put down some kind of paper. Minnie says, no, you guys comment here. I'll comment in the description. Ice Moon says, will the Kings of War content be bacon sarnie related? Yeah, you never know, mate. We could always do some kind of like some pork products. Ed says, my first game of 40k was played with cardboard counters cut out from the back of the book. My first game of Kings of War, mate, was done with cardboard squares, basically, like the cardboard rectangles from the base unit size with all of the stats written on the bases, so I could kind of move them around and get used to how the rules worked before I even considered kind of, is this something I want to kind of give it a try to, for example. Ian says, so does that mean we can suggest that you start doing these videos in costume? You can suggest it, mate. It doesn't mean I'm going to do it. Somebody says he's getting a single malt. I tell you what, mate, I should have done the whiskey. The whiskey's only there. It's closer to me. Look at the whiskey's closer than the water was. I should have just went for that. Marcus says, what's your favourite kind of bacon? Cooked bacon, mate, in a sandwich. Excuse me. Lord Maiden says, so does that mean, oh yeah, we just read that one, sorry, let me go down. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Lord Maiden says, it ends this Sunday the 27th. It does, mate, yeah. Ends midnight this Sunday, and then that means I've got the Monday to collect all of the emails in and kind of put all the pictures into a file and get ready for the Monday night stream. Lord Maiden says, Andy's drunk. I wish, mate. I wish I could do with it tonight, to be fair. Vincent says, one-page rules even has cardboard cutouts for people that want to start instantly. There's a few games that do stuff like that. I remember when Guild Ball first came out, you could print off and cut out little standees and stuff to try the game out. There's something else I've seen with cutouts as well, like to just basically to give things a try. Forget what it was now. Is it Moonstone? I might be imagining that. Perkins says, Ratmen, Goblins, Orcs or Halflings, most fun to paint, easiest to paint. Do you know what? I think other than the fact that the Goblins are a horde army and you have to paint lots of them, I actually think the Goblins will be probably the most fun to paint. Although I have kind of got some Halflings that I've started myself. I just think the Goblins are quite kind of like characterful minis, actually. Luke says, there's someone very interested in starting some Marvel Crisis core stuff. Do I need to start with the starter box, or is it easy enough to just get in on some of the expansions? Personally speaking, mate, you will never go wrong buying the starter box because it contains the dice, it contains all of the measuring sticks that you need, it contains some of the kind of the what they called, like the cards which show you the layouts of where the different missions, put their maps, put the tokens and stuff. It has 5 models for Avengers, and it has 5 models for Cabal in there, so there's enough in there for 2 players to play. Personally speak, and it also has terrain in there as well. So if you can pick up the core box at a decent price, it is still the best value of getting in, because the dice are custom dice, so you'll have to buy a set of dice anyway. The measuring sticks and movement sticks are custom, so you'll have to buy a set of them. So by that point, you're almost just better off buying this core set anyway, mate. So I would suggest buying the core set. You don't technically need it to play. The rules are free online, but there are some stuff, some basic kind of like tools and dice and stuff that you'll need to buy regardless. Marco says, do you like the new Electra Mini from Marvel? I do like it, but I must admit, I'd like to see it like up close. There's a lot of the way she's kind of up on one hand, that wrist kind of looks like it's going to be quite a weak point. Although to be fair, most of the other models are quite dynamic, so who knows. Phil says, can I enter an unpainted one in the painting challenge? No, you can't. I'm going to gatekeep on that one. That's why it's called a painting challenge. Cardboard terrain goat. Sonnet says, I played against a guy who hadn't finished building his army. They were held together with putty. As we damaged them, he took parts off them. It was great fun. Chris says, what's the whiskey you drink? I like a few different kind of whiskies. That's a bottle of Monkey Shoulder that I've had sitting around for a while, to be fair. I quite like Balvenie. Is probably one of my favourites. I've got a few bottles of Balvenie 12-year-old. I'm getting quite into kind of bourbons as well, to be fair. Little bit of Wild Turkey, a little bit of Bullet Bourbon, Woodford Reserve. I really like Woodford Reserve. I don't drink lots of whiskey, but I've probably drank more Woodford Reserve than any other whiskey, I would say. Chris Dre says, hello from Northern Rockies. Hello, mate. He says, I keep showing up late on Manic Mondays. Apologies, great topic. A lot of great war games don't use miniatures. I think people enjoy them. Yeah, that's the point. As long as people are having fun, what does it matter, mate? Anyone going to Hammerhead at Newark on the 5th of March? I'm actually away for a few days, mate. Is that on the Saturday? Is that the weekend? I'm actually away that weekend. So, no, I won't be going, mate. Let me double check my diary. Yeah, I go away on the 3rd. And I get back on the 7th. So yeah, I won't be there. Busey said, is the prize worldwide or UK only? I'm pretty sure it's worldwide, mate. Mantic didn't mention anything about it not being. I'm assuming they're going to send it out, but if they don't, I'll send it. So yeah, we'll sort that one out anyway. Chris says, I still have my GW cardboard models. Very playable. Yes. Tizzy Brindrin says, what characters would you like to see in Marvel Crisis Protocol? To be honest, the main ones that I like have probably already kind of come through. We're starting to see some alternatives come through. Like there's a couple of Doctor Strange. We're now getting like a second Daredevil coming out. I'm looking forward to seeing the Nick Fury model. in the flesh. I quite like that. And I'm looking forward to seeing the Quinjet terrain piece as well when it comes out as well. But yeah, I've been quite well served, I would say, with the stuff that's come out so far. Chris Day says, teaching youngsters the games involves a lot of what you see is what you get in grey plastic. 3 great young painters grew out of that and endless games. Yeah, do you know what it is? The hobby's got so many different facets to it. Some people just like kid bashing and building models and never ever get to paint them. Some people love painting, like me, and hate the building side of it, but do it because it's a means to an end. Some people love playing the game and are not really bothered about that. Some of them just so they choose games where they're single piece miniatures and they don't have to build anything and they don't necessarily have to paint them. Some people like to do all like to paint and to play games. That's what's good about the hobby, is that you kind of you find the bit that you enjoy and you enjoy it your way. Peter says, I'm painting my gargoyle for the painting challenge, almost going on the basin. Nice one, mate. And Sunnet Sykes says, off to work all, have a good night. Thank you very much for coming in, mate. And on that note, we're at 10:30 now. I think we might as well call it a night, because I've kind of gone through the new stuff I want to talk about. We've talked about the topic. I've told you about the competition as well. So yes, so remember, subscribe, comment on the video after it's kind of, when it's like a pre-recorded, if you like, not now when it's live, because you can't comment on a live video. And we'll do the draw on March the 14th, which is the Monday. So is that 3 weeks from today? I think it's 3 weeks from today. So you've got 3 weeks to get your comments in. So yeah, let me know. Kings of War content, what would you like to see? Jeff Higdon, hello buddy, how you doing? Luke Roberts, have a good night, he says. Pleasure as always. Jess says, that was lively but good. It's because I'm standing up, mate. I've got energy because I'm standing up. That's what it is. And Christian says, night all, thanks, have a great week. And Austin says, thank you for being positive for us. You are welcome, mate. I will always be positive about it. I like to have positivity in the hobby. So, video later this week. I'm not sure because I've got a lot of editing work to do this week, but we'll see. If I can, I will. Definitely back next Monday for the live stream. Don't forget, if you're not a member of the Facebook group, come and join the Facebook group. We always have a bit of a weekend roundup. Ask what everybody's been up to. You can always post all of your work in progress stuff or any hobby questions you have. Show any photographs of games you've been playing, all that kind of good stuff. If you're not following me on Twitter, please do come and give me a Twitter follow. I'm kind of coming up to 1,000 followers. It would be nice to get to 1,000. So that's at BlackJack Legacy, and you can also come and follow me on Instagram as well. And again, that's at BlackJack Legacy 2. So take care, folks. Have a beautiful week. Have a lovely rest of the week, and I'll see you next Monday. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month, and there is lots of different tiers and bonuses which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.